involved in. And then she's going to pass on to me, and I will talk a little bit about the Pathways event. So thank you very much for inviting us to talk this afternoon.
Right, I'm absolutely delighted to get the chance to talk to you about research that we're doing, or rather that we've got some other academics doing for us. Because I think this is going to be something which will change the way that we look at careers across the whole of the university. This, we believe, is the secret of career success. Pretty simple. What we've done is we've gone out to a consultancy led by Professor Ivan Robertson, who was the Emeritus Professor from the Business School, and got him to come up with his views of what would make career success for graduates. And so what we've done is we've looked at a number of graduates who quickly moved into great aspirational graduate jobs shortly after graduating. The kind of stuff which most people think, kind of my career will go like that. We've also looked at graduates who struggled, been in maybe internships, part-time jobs, unemployed, and we've interviewed them to find out what makes the difference between those two groups of graduates. Now, there's a lot of talk in careers about employability, graduate employability. I hate that term. It sounds like you're being bought and sold. It's all about going off and getting a job for some big corporate employer. We wanted to approach from different directions. What do students do who get into the kind of careers that they really aspire to? So we've looked to see what was the difference, and there were very different jobs. We've talked to people who are in jobs in science, in the creative industries, in teaching humanities, in engineering, in business, and all those graduates who were in kind of heights type jobs, the other end of the scale. And instead of thinking about what skills and experience you need for each of those jobs, which varies widely, we said, what are the behaviours which make the difference between somebody who gets one of those jobs nice and quickly and somebody who often will still get those jobs but takes longer, and maybe has a year or so of bumming around trying to get themselves into a decent job. And these are the 5 things, quickly. The people who motor into the kind of things that they want seem to be the people who explore. They explore different types of careers, they explore what they're capable of themselves, so it's understanding about themselves, trying things out, the kind of person who's outward seeking. They connect. That's a B. They're not the kind of people who sit in their room and think about this and try and sort it all out themselves. They're talking to other people or they're interacting with other people in some way. Doesn't mean that they're big party animals, but they're the people who will maybe connect with an employer or their colleagues or their peers or their friends and ask their opinion. I say, oh, have you heard about this? What do you think? Or do you know anybody who does this? Is it worth going to that event? So the kind of people who share that information around their colleagues, their friends, and potentially employers. People who can communicate in different ways. Now, graduate students, you've got lots of different ways that you communicate with. How do you talk to supervisors? How do you do the academic talk? How do you do the public engagement stuff? But people who can learn to communicate appropriately in different situations. And that includes the far end of things, doing things like doing a CV or doing interviews. But it's also all the other kind of interactions with people. So communicating is critical. And then the 2 which we kind of knew about, but we didn't realise would come out so strongly, were people who reflect. And this is where all the other skills you hear about, whether it's time management or particular technical skills come in. But it's people who can think about themselves and think, well, what have I got that's different from other people? Or where am I lacking? Or where am I really good? Because one of the big problems we get is when people who are highly skilled, often very specialists, you can't necessarily think about, well, I didn't realise that not everybody can collaborate with this lab over there. I've got to think about what makes me different and how do I communicate that to a potential employer or a potential academic collaborator or something like that. So that reflection makes a big difference. It's that I've done a load of stuff, so what? What do I think about? What do I do next? And then the final one, which really makes a difference, is persevering. And that's kind of 2 angles to it. There's being enthusiastic, having drive, using your initiative. But there's also, if things don't go right, you step back, you reflect, you think about it, you have another, maybe talk to somebody else and they go, how can I try this differently? And certainly as graduate students, anybody who's doing any kind of scientific research, you've got persevering bucket loads. At least you will have by the time you finish your degrees. So there are different behaviours which seem to be common to this wide range of jobs. So at the moment we're at the point where we've got the framework, we've had loads of talked to lots of graduates and careers people and so on to try and validate it. We're now put together a diagnostic questionnaire, self-diagnostic, and we're piloting that right now with undergraduates. One caveat I would say is that this has all been done with undergraduates, and undergraduates going for jobs. So it may be different for postgraduates. It may be different if you go for postgraduate study. And my gut feel says that if you can, if you're going for an academic role, if you're out exploring what research is out there, you're connecting with the right academics, collaborating, actually learning to communicate to different groups of people, you're persevering because you're persevering if you're doing research, and you're doing that kind of reflective thinking about yourself and your research and how you can communicate that. It just seems to kind of get to the things that feel right for potentially any type of career. So this self-diagnostic, once we've got it validated, we'll then be wanting to use it with a range of other people and see if it works for postgraduates, see if it works for doctoral researchers, see if it works for those in postgraduate study. In the meantime, I'm so taken by this, I'm already starting to talk about it to everybody I can find, writing about it on the postgrad blog and designing half of the postgrad website all around it. You were first, you were the guinea the pioneers. There's a whole new set of resources on the postgrad website. There's a careers for doctoral researchers whole chunk there, which is split down from first years, what can you do to explore, connect, reflect, and so on, intermediate years and final years. But that was an introduction to what I want to talk about today, which is pathways. We want to make it easy for you to explore and connect, because it's, where do you start? Looking at careers, where do you find the time? So, we decided we'll find some work examples for you. So we will bring people here on one day of the year, so that you can do the explore and connect all in one day. All you have to do is turn up, ask questions, in terms of the detail, I'll let Anna cover that. But if you want to pick up details of how you can get more information about pathways and all the other online materials we've put together, including our blog, which will tell you all about that model, and your free post-it notes. At the end.
Thank you. So as Louise says, we bring these people to you, don't have to do very much, and that day will be Friday the 7th of June this year when we hold our Pathways event. It's actually on the Sackville Street campus, so North Campus, in the Reynolds building. It's a cross-faculty event, so we work with colleagues from the faculty training teams across all 4 faculties, but we do ensure that we put on an event which has got something for everybody in it. So what you'll find is we run on the morning, we will have a series of Q&A based sort of panel sessions. So we bring together everyone who comes to speak has a PhD themselves, and they've either gone into academic or non-academic careers, a whole range, different sectors, different types of organisations, and we group them into little groups based on different topics and different discussion points. And what we've done this year is we've worked with an advisory panel of representatives from each of the 4 faculties to make sure that the discussion and topics that we're going to cover off are relevant to you and are the kind of things that you'll be thinking about. So it might be which is better, industry versus academia, or it might be are there roles within a university for somebody who doesn't want to follow an academic career. It might be should I try working overseas. It might be you're an international student, you might be thinking about staying in the UK after you finish your studies. There's a whole range of different topics that we try and cover off on that morning. And then what we're trying this year in the afternoon is 2 bigger sessions about marketing your skills and your experience, and also bringing together a panel of actual recruiters to give their perspectives on what they look for from PhD applicants. So that's on what we call Pathways Day on Friday the 7th of June. You'll see on the slide that it says 2 days. The reason being that on Wednesday the 12th of June, so a few days after that event, we then put together a PhD zone at our larger graduate recruitment fair, and that is a set of recruiters specifically looking to take on PhD students in a separate room as part of that larger event. So we class that as sort of day 2 of Pathways. So you can kind of get the Explore and Connect option on the Friday, and then on the following Wednesday an opportunity to actually go out and sort of sell your wares to some of these people. It's free.
Sorry, I would just point out a caveat.
Yeah.
Rarely get many or any life science or medical science recruiters on the second day.
But we do get, you know, it's a good opportunity to go and find out what's there if you've kind of got other options to explore, an opportunity. We do have a CV checking service there as well, so if you've got CVs or applications that you want some feedback on as well, you can get that on the day. And equally, as I say, it's part of that wider event. We've got about 90 exhibitors downstairs, and they're equally willing to talk to PhDs as much as undergraduate or graduates at undergraduate level. They're both free events to attend. We offer you, well, we give you lunch and refreshments on day 1, so on the 7th of June, not on the Wednesday, I'm afraid, but please come along on Friday, and there's a good spread on every year at least. And we have around about 350 attendees, so it's a fantastic day. I really enjoy working on it. We've done it for 6 years, and hopefully we improve it year on year. So what you can expect on day 1 is an opportunity to hear from a wide range of guests who say they've all got PhDs themselves. It's inspirational, and we do get a lot of feedback from delegates to say, I've got some new ideas, I can explore things that I've never thought about, I've really gained some confidence by coming along today to think about my future in a different way and sort of pursue some different avenues. It's a chance for you to ask very general questions about things that might be on your mind regarding what you're going to do once you finish your studies, or very specific questions that you might have. So a lot of the panellists that will be in the sessions will be available during the lunch and the breaks to chat to you on a one-to-one level if you've got specific questions that you want to pursue on a more individual basis with them. Make contacts with the panellists, but equally with each other. There's 350 fellow students who will be attending, and you might make connections that you would never have made if you hadn't come to a cross-faculty event before. On day 2, so at the PhD zone, say it's a chance to meet with actual employers of PhD students to find out what kind of job opportunities there are about their recruitment processes. And as I've mentioned previously, it's part of that wider event, so you're more than welcome to come along and see what else is on offer. The graduate recruitment fair is actually a 2-day event, so it's the Wednesday the 12th, Thursday the 13th of June. We have different exhibitors each day, and you're welcome at both days, but the PhD zone is specifically on the Wednesday. I just thought I would, sorry it's a little bit small, include some feedback from the day 1 of Pathways. So as you see, this just ratifies what I said earlier. People have a real buzz when they leave the event about the advice that they've got, kind of inspiration, the stories that they've heard, people who've done a PhD in a specific subject and then have pursued a really circuitous path to get to where they are now. It shows that there's life after my PhD. People just kind of find it reassuring that they're actually doing the right thing and that you're here for a reason and that you know where you're going once you've finished. So we enjoy it, we love doing it, and we hope to see you all there on the 7th of June. If you'd like to register in advance, you can do on the website. You don't have to, don't worry if you don't get around to it, because we can register you on the day. There's some flyers at the front here with the web address on, and it's got my email address on, so if anyone's got any specific questions that you want to ask, you can do that via the website. Does anyone have anything they wanted to ask? No? Well, thank you. Yes, sorry. Yes.
So, 2 questions.
Yeah.
One, what kind of non-academic career type people do you have? Like scientific writers, or?
Yeah, we've had scientific writers and sort of science communication, so you're talking about public engagement, we've had panels around that in the past. We've had people who do kind of administrative roles in the university, so it might be like research administration, or we have people who work out in the NHS, we have people who work in science laboratories. We try and get a really broad spectrum, and a lot of the people that come back are alumni from the university, so they've been at this university, so that's always helpful to have that kind of perspective. Each year we do try in advance to give you a kind of idea of the sort of people that are going to be there, but obviously the caveat there being that some people do pull out last minute, so we can't always guarantee that that list is as up to date as it will be on the day, but we do try and give you at least a flavour for what's going to be on offer and the kind of people that you might get to speak to on the day.
So,
In the last couple of years, we've had scientists who've gone on to become setting their own cake making business, material scientists there, obviously, and a physicist who turned in, isn't he an astrophysicist, who turned into somebody who inspects roller coasters.
Yeah, we get some weird and wonderful stories. It's really, honestly, you wouldn't kind of be able to plot out some people's career paths. They're really interesting.
So I did have another question, unless somebody else has come up with something new. So the other question I have, I think sometimes for some students at least, it's a little bit difficult to approach
Yeah.
like alumni because
Yeah.
they're not really sure what to talk about or
Yeah.
maybe what kinds of questions they should be asking.
Yeah.
Do you guys suggest any resources that students in that position might look into about kind of figuring out how to
Networking. And
Yeah.
we do have resources available on our website about networking, but actually it is a really difficult thing to try and teach somebody to do. I think what we do through Pathways is hopefully, because we set out the panels in a sort of Q&A scenario, they're chaired by a member of the team, and we have kind of questions pre-prepared, so if people go quiet and shy, we can kind of get the conversation going. So hopefully what we do through those sessions is then give you an opportunity to hear their stories and actually think, well, I wouldn't mind finding out a little bit more about that, so that when you go, you can say to them, you know, you can see them over the coffee and say, oh, I've just been in a session with you there and I really wanted to ask you a question. So we kind of break the ice for you a little bit, because it is difficult to know how to network effectively, I think. But coming along to something like that is a good start to get yourself in the right frame of mind, speaking to people, asking questions.
That makes it easy for it's an informal one.
Yeah.
If you've got some difficult networking conversations to have where you think you could be doing some outside of that, again, part of the new postgrad resources on there is how to network without hassling your contacts.
Yeah.
And how to persevere if people turn you down. I literally talk you through the steps, the approaches, what you can ask.
Yeah, we think with Pathways is really informal and we like to ease you in gently, and it's a fun day. It's not scary at all. There's lots of laughing, there's lots of eating, so you know, please come along and have a good day with some children.
Well, thank you guys
No,
so
you're
much.
welcome. Thank you.